I want to focus on shifting your focus in a different way, looking at your priorities. So, going back in history, there's this thing that they call the American dream, and it's always existed since the beginning of America, I would assume. Maybe it wasn't labeled that, but everybody had a dream of what they wanted in life, and everybody kind of had this similar description of what life would look like if it were ideal, right? So, we always joke that it's the white picket fence and the big backyard and 2.5 kids in a car or whatever it is, right? And so the American dream has always been something that people strive for. But it's just continued shifting rather subtly because, maybe back in the early times of cars, it was like, oh, I want to upgrade my horses to get a car. And now it's like, oh, I want to upgrade my basic car to a loaded SUV. So everything just kind of subtly shifted to be bigger, more expensive, and more modernized. And so with that created this need to work more because things cost more. And while the cost of living and all these economical things that I don't want to talk about tonight contributed to that, what really contributed to the shift in our American dream is the modernization of our society, right? The reliance on technology, the speed in which we work, and all of these things. So modernization has been good and it's also been bad. I feel like it's been to our detriment, to be honest. I mean, it's hard to say like, oh, let's not modernize because we don't want to go there. But I also feel like this pandemic has revealed to us just how far our modernization has contributed to us in a negative way. Because if you have constant access to the internet, that means you can constantly work. And that means that your employer can constantly contact you and expect a really quick response. And the problem with that is that you're working more and probably getting paid the same. And you're not able to create the true American dream that you want because you might have your white picket fence and you might have your fully loaded SUV, but you're working so much to pay for those things. And it's awful when you're a salary worker, right? Because you get paid the same no matter how many hours you work. And sometimes you have to work until the job gets done, which is the case in our household for my husband. It's a salary job. And so you don't ever get to use your money to impact the world in a way that makes you feel good. And you don't get to use your financial, just money, basically. You don't get to use your money to experience life. And so this pandemic situation has shown everyone that we are so reliant on our technology that we can't experience life. We just can't. We don't know how to shop anymore. We don't know how to have fun. We don't know how to find things. We don't know how to, we don't have a yellow book, you guys. So how do you look something up? Thankfully Facebook hasn't crashed because what would you do if you couldn't go to your neighborhood group and say, hey guys, I had to do this. Who's your favorite plumber? Who's your favorite, dishwasher repair person? There's no yellow book. I mean, I'm sure there's yellowbook.com, but without the internet, we have no ability to do things. Our kids will never know how to really use an encyclopedia unless we teach them. They will never rely on a dictionary and that darn spell check. They will have poor spelling, which now as an adult, I don't think I could win the same spelling bees that I used to win as a kid because I use the autocorrect and the spell check so much. So all of that to say, thank you for the pandemic, not for the sadness that it's created, not for the job loss or any of that, but thank you personally to the pandemic for revealing these things to our family. And I know from talking to a lot of you that you're feeling the same. It's forcing you to look at your priorities. Is your priority really just to work and pay the bills? Is it really to afford the house that you like, that you love, that will make you feel good? I mean, what happens when you get that house? Then what? If getting that house, if you have that house, if you're living in that American dream right now, how did it feel during the pandemic? And these are questions you don't have to answer to me. These are things that it's a strategy for shifting your focus, right? And your priorities. Really think about the things that were uncomfortable to you during this time and think about what you did to create the life that you have right now. Was it worth it? if you had to stay home for the rest of 2020 and part of 2021 and do what you're doing right now, is that good or is that bad? And I'm not talking about like the illness and like the overcrowded hospital, all of that stuff. I'm putting that aside. I'm just saying, like, your everyday, when you get up and you brush your teeth in the house that you live in and you drive the car that you drive, or don't, it just sits in the garage, and you do the things with your kids and the things that you do with your spouse and the books that you read and the things that you put in your mind, like, is this worth it? Our family had a huge reality check during all of this, and we're like, no, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. And so write it down. As a mom, we don't give ourselves time to think about those big dreams and those big things outside of just like, make sure the kids have brushed their teeth, make sure they've eaten, make sure they get their chores done, make sure they get their school done. And don't forget to play with them a little bit, because, we have to like play with them and engage with them and give them eye contact, which, not that I don't want to do that, but it's like a little list that you check off. And nowhere on that list does it say, like, create some cool memory. Okay, maybe once in a while we get to go on vacation. We can't really go on vacations right now. I mean, sort of. So because you can't go somewhere to create those memories and create those experiences, what are you going to do? So I don't have a solution for you, but my strategy tip for you this time is to really think about all of that. Like, think about how comfortable or uncomfortable all of this has been and what you would do differently. I'm sure most of us don't have a lot of regrets. I'm not saying like regret the choices that you've made leading up to now. I don't regret going to grad school and getting multiple graduate degrees, but I do know that it wasn't that important, right? Experiences with my kids and my family, those are way more important. So yeah, there's that statement that says like money doesn't buy happiness, but then some people flip it and say, well, if you don't have money, you can't make an impact. It's all true. Like, money doesn't buy happiness. That is a flawed statement. You do need to be able to make an impact somehow, whether it's with your time or your money, one way or the other. If you're working to create money to pay the bills and you don't have time to give either, so you either have time or money to give or neither. Which one do you have? So if you are always working, you can't experience life. So I know there's a lot of you thinking about homeschooling, and a lot of you are thinking, I can't work and homeschool. It's possible to do both, but do you need to do both? Do you need to work as much as you think you need to work? Do you need to make as much money as you think you need to make? Lots and lots of things, and a discussion that I'm just starting this evening. And so if you want to continue it, I'd love to chat with you. If you're a mom, I have the Crunchy Super Mom community. We're having these types of discussions, and I'll be back with another strategy to think about tomorrow. So homeschooling, that was strategy number 1, thinking about that. If you missed that, just let me know and I'll get you the replay of that. Tonight, I really want you to write out the vision of the life that you want. Not the American dream or Canadian dream or wherever you're tuning in from. I have a lot of Crunchy Super Moms all over the world. Not that dream that society tells you to have, but your own dream. Like, if life as you knew it, if you knew that life as you knew it was going to end in 2020, what would you do differently? And how can you create the life that you want right now? What would you do differently? So my family has a lot of ideas on what we're going to do, and we're working on them right now. We came to a screeching halt and said, no, not doing this. This isn't the life that we are working hard to create for our kiddos.